One of the biggest things that I think turns around is helping our clients understand the ascension from do-it-yourself business owner to CEO to entrepreneur, right? And those three different designations, right? And that's something that I think we've been talking about recently is like entrepreneurs hire CEOs. But first, you sort of have to, it's hard to go from here to here because you gotta detach yourself from the doing in the business, right? So when you talk about a mature business, I classify a mature business as a business that runs with multiple operators, meaning if the person that started the business is not there on a day-to-day basis, the business is still running.
In today's episode of the Hero of the Hour podcast, Mark chats with his partners at Northeast Private Client Group, Adam Schlossberg, president, and Benjamin Bush, managing partner. Adam and Ben are also key business strategists, critical thinkers, and financial advisors. Get ready to learn about the biggest difference between being a business owner and being an entrepreneur, and the importance of celebrating all your wins as your business grows. Thank you so much for joining and enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Mark B. Murphy, founder and CEO of Northeast Private Client Group and the author of the book, The Ultimate Investment. It's my third book about owning your own business, and owning a business is the last great tax shelter. But I'm very happy to have my two very, very special guests here today, my partners, Adam Schlossberg and Ben Bush.
Hey, Mark.
Thanks for coming. As we named the podcast, the Heroes Podcast, I think it should start with a question of how do you define a hero? What's a hero to you?
In my mind, a hero is somebody who has done extraordinary achievement, something not just notable, but excellent, and often so in the service of others. So when I think of a hero, a couple of different people come to mind, and depending on sort of the framework, like in my family, I always talk about my grandfather being a hero, really that whole generation. He was a naval aviator in World War II. He flew off of aircraft carriers in the Japanese theater, or in the Pacific theater, but just his entire life and what that generation did, I think is phenomenal. When I shift it to, more personal, I always talk about the entire team of people at Columbia Presbyterian that saved my daughter's life when she was born. Just exceptional work, and to them, it's like their work. But to me, they were very clearly heroes. They were exceptional at what they did, and it seemed that they went over and above. And then in my work life, I think there's several people, and I speak to it a lot. I think I have a number of heroes who I feel constantly poured more into my career than I thought I deserved. Early on, it's a guy named Nat Perlmutter, who you know. Then it was you, Mark, and a guy named Bernie Stoltz, who was very close with us. Another guy named Sam Beller, who I've spent 12 years with, really taught me a great deal. And again, seemed like they were given without any expectation of return. Hopefully I've been able to return and pay that back. But most importantly, I'm going to try and pay it forward, because it really changed the trajectory of my career immensely.
For me, I think a hero is someone that shows up and prevails over difficulties, however you may define that, in any circumstance that I think most people wouldn't, and show up when they could easily go home, right? It's and to me, it's whether lackluster or as probably something that most people pick, but my father is probably my hero easily. On the business side of things, he's taught me a ton about the business. He helped build a large law firm, but did it in the right way. And as Mark and Ben know, it's hard to hear anyone say a bad word about him. It's probably too kind. But just seeing how he did it and kind of learning so much about how to think about things, seeing how he shows up now, 70 years old and still enjoys going to work 6 days a week. But then also for me was, he was sick, was it 10, 12 years ago now, and very much on his deathbed, and, seeing him fight through and, get back to working and putting more time in than anything, and focusing on that, and then dedicating himself to helping others when going through that situation. seeing that perseverance has, been a huge impact and a huge way of how I, go about my life and dealing with clients as well.
Ben, when I met you, I think first met you, you were like in your late 20s, maybe turning 30.
Yeah.
And Adam, when I met you, you were a junior or a sophomore, junior in college. I've seen you guys go from that to being great leaders. Tell me about leadership. What does leadership mean to you?
Leadership to me is someone that can get people to follow and to want to be greater than what they are now without having to, you know, do something specific, right? Not to, yell at them or, berate them until they get to that place. It's, I think, a great leader has people follow them without doing anything specific, right? They're just that person. They're someone that people want to follow their uh, work ethic. They see how hard they work. They see, what they put into stuff. They see how others react to them. And, to me, Mark, you've been an unbelievable leader to follow without question. I think the one thing for so many, because, I came into this business, you know, working behind you and following you from day one. And the one thing I don't think anyone's ever been able to say is, there's no one that works harder than Mark, right? There's, as if anyone ever in the office was like, oh, we have so much going on, no one can ever say Mark's, taking a vacation and playing too much golf. You're working so hard, and just seeing that work ethic has, had a great impact on me. But I think it goes to what I'm saying is that's who you are, right? I mean, you're someone who has a great work ethic, and everyone sees it. Everyone wants to follow that because, not because you say, "Hey, everyone, you have to work harder," but they see what it means to you and how hard you work, and that really rubs off on people.
I think that you want to lead always by example. You want to. I think one of the many things we have in common is the three of us would not ask anybody else to do anything that we wouldn't do ourselves or have not done ourselves. And I think there's some validity. Yeah, I think you get some points with your people when you're in the trenches with them, willing to roll up your sleeves and work as harder or harder than them and lead the way. I think really what you're saying is you're saying this is the direction we're going and come on board. Come on, this is a great place to be.
Well, I got a great story about that too when you mention it. But it's like setting the vision and then setting the example, living that example, and then you will naturally attract people to be along with that ride as long as they believe in the vision that you're putting out there, right? As long as you get buy-in on, I believe in where we're going, and then you show up and go to work every day, I think not only will people want to be along on that journey with you, if you do it well enough, you will inspire another generation of leaders, right? Which is always the goal that we talk about here. It's a funny story when you mentioned that, Adam, about nobody out working. And this is a Nat Perlmutter conversation, but years ago, probably was a decade ago. And Mark, you were there. We went to a holiday party. Bernie was in town, and we went to Budokan. Had a huge table at Budokan,
Yeah.
and we were out pretty late. And I don't know if we were overserved or served appropriately, but I know I went home tired and happy. But I was going back with Nat. We were in the car. And at this point, I lived directly across the street in New York City from our office. Like I could roll out of bed and be at the office within 5 minutes. And I said to Nat, I'm definitely going to be at the office before you tomorrow because frankly, it had never happened. Like being across the street. And Nat's like, no, you're not. I'm like, all right, bet. So I forced myself to get out of bed at like 6:30 in the morning, and again, we were out pretty late. And I drag across the street and I get up there, and sure enough, there's Nat in his office, lights on, full suit, ready to go, like nothing ever happened. Right. And I was like, all right, that's the guy. There's the ethic.
The other thing that's the journey that another thing we all share together with the journey is like you go from like taking a job to becoming a business owner. And then most people just stay at business owner. They never morph into the great entrepreneur. What's your journey been like?
I was in Gainesville, Florida after I finished school, and like many college kids, a little bit unsure. I mean, I had a career path going into college that I really was passionate about and was inquiring about, and that was sort of working with marine mammals, like being a trainer at SeaWorld, which fortunately did not come to fruition because they don't really exist much anymore. And one of my good friends recruited me to sort of his family's firm in South Florida, where I got the introduction of a couple things. One was nobody managing my own schedule, right? It's show up and do the work. And if you don't want to, that's fine, because we're not going to pay anything unless if you show up. But two, it gave me the education of going and sitting at somebody's kitchen table and talking to them and learning about them and connecting with them. And this was different than our business now. That was a business that was more benefits related, much more about like health insurance and some ancillary benefits. But at the age of 23, 24, it was smile and dial, set appointments, show up, and you're rewarded for your effort, right? It was show up every day. And if you didn't want to show up, that's okay, but there's going to be no reward, right? And you're on your own and you're living there. And so that's where I really got to learn about really who I was, right? Like how I was going to show up. Because part of the reason I took that job, quite frankly, was I didn't want somebody managing my schedule, right? I wanted to be able to run my own hours and work hard if I wanted to. But we were a group of young guys in South Florida in our 20s. The entire team was. So we were at the beach Friday afternoon, right? That was one of the joys and the pleasures we had. We work our butt off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday, we were done at noon. And that was a huge payoff. When I moved to New York, having had that sort of instilled and then starting from scratch, and mind you, this is 2008, right? So I moved from Florida to New York in 2008, had never lived in New York, had no network, zero clients. So starting back over at zero, already had gone down that road once. So I had some confidence that I was going to be able to do it. But really had that rugged individual approach for years, right? Where I did start to see a little bit of success or traction, I would say, and started making money. But then it took me way too long to transition from sort of, yes, I have a business and running a business, to how do I scale this and actually just start to do what I do best, because I was too nervous. I was scared, as many business owners are, about that next hire, about can I afford to put somebody on my payroll? And, I always tell the story is right after my daughter was born, 3 months later, my wife came home from work after like a day going back from maternity leave. And she says, I'm coming to work for you. And I said, I'm not hiring. And she quit her job. And it was probably the best thing that ever happened to my business, because it was that instant learning curve of, wow, she's amazing at what she does, which is a lot of stuff that I'm horrible at. And that's really what propelled me to sort of seek scale in my business and know what that was, and ultimately move my family to New Jersey and work with you, Mark, because you'd already done all that legwork. Frankly, I took a shortcut.
And Ben, if you took a shortcut, definitely took a shortcut. And Mark and I always tell the story of, I was an intern here and I tried to quit 3 times, and now somehow I'm a partner. Where
That'll
it was one of those things.
That'll teach you. That'll teach you to quit.
Where ultimately, for me, seeing the impact that Mark has on people really is what drove me to continue to grow where I am. And I think I was so used to seeing a partnership with many people having input on a business and how to grow it. But really there was, multiple people, and that really had like the true full impact, let's say the rainmaker and the person that works behind them, to, things that maybe the rainmaker's not good at, or just the day-to-day mundane stuff. And I always viewed Mark and I as that way, is, from where I grew up on, is that, my dad was the number 2, the guy that, just strategically thought about certain things in peace, okay, this is the outcome, but we want to achieve. How do we get there? And the guy in front of him was the guy that, big picture, here's where we're going. Now we need to get there. And, understanding how that works really well. And then, working with you, Mark, has kind of brought that all together for me. And you and I always have, we're yin and yang. We work so well off each other because of our strengths are we talk about the same thing, but we're like somewhat opposite in some personality traits. But like learning how to grow a business and seeing from you, okay, you have this vision and this picture of something that's out there. I'm like, I just don't see it. And then all of a sudden it happens. I've now come to learn to just say yes. And there's a method to the madness, in some sense. And, going along that journey has really helped open my eyes on to what's possible. And, you don't need to take things step by step, but sometimes you got to reach for bigger and better.
One of the things that I see a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur is business owners say to us, my biggest expense is payroll. And for me, you can never talk about people as an expense. You can talk about people as an investment. And I think one of the things we do is we invest in our people. We invest in each other. We invest in you. That the best investments entrepreneurs make is when they invest in themselves. And entrepreneurs think of people as investments, and business owners think of them as expenses. And I think the hard part also is when you're trying to grow a young family and you want to buy a house and you want to buy a little nicer car and you want to take a little nicer vacation, or you want to get your significant other a nice present or something like that, is to force yourself to reinvest back in your business. That that to understand that business is your money machine, and when you invest in it, as long as you're making good investments, that will not only massively grow the asset value but grow the amount of money you can take out. And so I find that for entrepreneurs, that I find that the second thing I found that was a learning experience early on is because I didn't have any money when I started, so I was always doing it on the come, and taking every dollar I made and investing it, everything I could back, was that the game changes when you get cash confidence, meaning you're not worried about your own personal expenses. And so you don't have to pull out massive salaries, or you can make investments back in the business. And when you have the latitude to do that, that's when things can get really exciting and really big. And I think we've all discovered that. That's how we've created our you could talk about real estate and the stock markets and all these other wonderful investments. But the best investments we've made, if you put an ROI on the money we've put back in our business, now there's time involved too, but the time and the money, it's almost incalculable as a percentage in terms of how much we've earned by doing that. And I think that's the difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur.
What do you think early in your career, Mark? Because we know a lot of people, obviously, around the country that are sort of in our business and starting from scratch. They always talk about your story about him. It was dumb and broke from Suffolk, New York, and I had 2 appointments in my calendar. It was a haircut and a movie or something like that. But that mentality it was a pretty unique mentality, because so many people in our business and in many businesses are afraid to make investments in their business because they don't see that, right? They don't see them as investments. They look at your P&L and you look at everything that's on there, and whatever's in between the top line and the bottom line, we all look at, hey, that's a cost to the business. What do you think inspired you early to see it different? Or was there a trigger point or a mentor or somebody you had? Because, it took a while for that. Like I said, I was scared. And then the first investment I made was almost forced upon me. And then I found the tremendous value, and it was a lot easier after that. And still now, learning to trust in investments and how to make them without putting yourself at risk. What do you think that switch was for you, where so many people don't do it or do it as much or as often?
I don't think there's any people better to advise business owners and entrepreneurs than us, because we live their dream. Meaning, what I learned early on in my career is when you're advising entrepreneurs, we have the best research available on the planet. It's called our clients. And you see the challenges that they have, and you learn and you learn and you learn and you learn. And then you see the very, very best practices of what is out there. And again, what the good ones do is they share those best concepts with their clients. What I think the great ones do, and I'd like to hopefully think we would be in that category, or at least aspire to be in that category, we then implement the strategies in our own business. And that's what we've done. I think we also do the opposite. All of us are consumers of products. So as an example, one of the reasons I am so psychotic about returning emails, texts, and phone calls like right away is because how frustrating is it when you're trying to get a hold of somebody and it takes them a few days to get back to you. You have to call them 2 or 3 times to get back to you. It drives me crazy. So I didn't want to have a business that did that. Or how many people woke up, today and said, yeah, I want to stay on hold for 45 minutes. Or, that's what I want to do for a living. Or, all the things that we, love about the very best of the best, and all the things that we hate about the mediocre or worse. And we want to do the best of the best and get rid of the mediocre stuff and create an experience for our clients every day. Our culture, I don't know how you describe our culture, but I think we've got a group of people that wake up every day wanting to create a wow experience for our clients. How do you view our culture?
I think from someone, I've been here the longest of anyone working here, obviously, other than yourself, it has changed tremendously. And I think from when I started to now, there's been a very concerted effort from you and then us on having the right people in the right places in the office. And you have an amazing ability to give someone a chance and everything that they need to succeed, right? And I think people see that in our office. And now, as we've now grown from 8 people to 27 people or something along those lines, and we keep going, and it seems like we keep hiring all the time, is that everyone now meshes together, right? Where when you had different personalities that weren't speaking the same language and all over the place, that it was a rougher place to work. But now, as we have more people who all speak the same language, who are all rowing in the right place and are here to help each other, you see more collaboration in our office, more, hey, you need help with that, I'll help you. More people getting together outside of the office. And I think today, when you create a place in which people want to work and enjoy coming, right? We weren't closed very long, during COVID, and we've been in office for the most part since 2020. And I think it's the best thing that could have happened. And I think our culture is much stronger for it.
Don't you think? I mean, I think there's a couple key indicators that at least we're on the right track, and I think it's always evolving. I think we have a great culture for a couple of reasons. One, if you look at the makeup of our team, so many people have been introduced by a family member or a good friend that are coming in. That's an indication that we're doing something right, right? It's when you have team members that are going out and recruiting on our behalf, that says that they like it. Another thing is, we're clearly a growth focused company, and the opportunity to grow here, I think, is fantastic. And we've seen that with a bunch of individuals within our company that are taking on new challenges, doing things that they were, never initially hired to do, but not only taking on those challenges, but excelling at them, right? Moving into a brand new department, managing a huge space, coming up onto the leadership team. I mean, there's countless examples this year alone of people having upward mobility in our company. And then when we talk about that with our team, as we do every quarter, about where we're going and what our plans are, is just to see people respond to that and stepping up. I think is in an indication that we have a very strong culture, a good culture of client obsessed experience, but also a place that cares about the people inside these walls as much or more. Right. And I think that's what we want them to feel like, is we're investing in them continually. Right. Because we want them to have the biggest, brightest future that they can imagine as well.
I think one of the frustrating pieces, that it's both joy and frustrating, is it's like you have that entrepreneurial magic where you're running, growing, and then you hit that ceiling of complexity. Or I've also heard it described as like an S curve, where you have like the S curve and it turns down, and then you got to create another S curve up, and another, and then when that turns down, another S curve and an S curve. Is that you've never arrived,
That's right.
no matter what you do. And so, like, I think part of the thing that I think we have to get better at, or I think I've gotten better at, but we could even get a lot better at it, is just making sure we're celebrating all the wins. And so I know we get together with our team at the end of the year. We get together during the year with people, but celebrating all the victories, because then it's on to the next challenge. And it's that I just I at this point I always want to make sure that we acknowledge that, because I think sometimes early in my career I was so busy on to the next challenge, I didn't celebrate as many of the victories as we do now, and I want to celebrate them more, because in the very beginning it was just me, and now we'll have over 30 people by the end of the year. And I think I think for us it's not measured by the number of people, but I think we have a responsibility that if we take care of those people and we love them and nurture them and take care of them in a very meaningful way, they're going to take care of our clients and our business. And I think we all realize that I honor their commitment as I honor your commitment to what we do every day.
What do you think has driven you throughout the years, and has that changed over time? Right? I mean, you've been doing this for so long at this point. Has what drove you early on in your career different than what's driven you now, or drives you now?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it changes, but ultimately, I think the idea is that I am overwhelmed with gratitude that there are people, very, very successful people, very, very wealthy people, who trust us with their money, with their lives, and making all the right decisions for their family, for their business, for whatever. And I'm not overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with gratefulness that they trust us with that. And I think the idea is that if you know, the reason this company was founded was not to make money. We thought it would make money, and thank God it has. We created this company because this was our vehicle to make other people's lives better. So if you're waking up every day with that ability to make other people's lives better, it doesn't really seem like work to me, or I don't think I'm really driven. I just enjoy the fix of changing people's lives for the better. It's like it's just what we do. We're always at our best. I know that's another thing we share in common. We're always at our best when we're serving others. You know what's interesting? Isn't it amazing when you take a look at the people that we do business with and are in business with? You talk about the law of attraction. There's very few people in our lives that don't think the same way. You know, that because they wouldn't come to our firm. You know, if there are people that do not, have that DNA inside them, we're not going to be the right firm for them. And you'll notice that I just see that again and again and again, that we're attracting the people of who we are. And that's not only the people that work with us, but the people who do business with us, the people that send us business. And so to me, that makes a joyous life, because when I find people that don't have our core values or don't have what we believe in, I find myself not wanting to work with them as much. Meaning I find myself that occasionally they don't select us, but more often than not, I don't select them because I don't want to work with somebody that I don't think has our values. And by the way, I don't mean that in a sanctimonious way, like our values are better than other people's values. They're just our values, that are there. I'm not making judgment on anybody's values, but I just want to work with people I enjoy working with. I want to work with good people. I want to work with people that want to make a difference in the world to other people. One of my pet peeves is that people they go, I've got enough. Most people are like, I've got enough. I find them to be selfish people, or maybe people that are not fun to work with because they have just enough for themselves. They don't have enough for other people. When you have people that want to have abundance, they not only make their lives great for everyone around them, they change and touch the lives of everybody in such a positive way. That's who you guys are. That's who I am. That's who we want to be around, not with people that just have enough.
And I think you guys would probably agree to this, is that, we've seen the flywheel go faster and faster as we focused on the people in our office, and the people in our office has gotten us around, bigger and better clients, those who see our values and who want to grow and go along that journey with us. And over the years, as we've put more time and focus into our core values and the people that are around us, both on client side and who work in our office, as we focused on that, everything has come into more fruition, right? We're more clients, and the more the spaces we want to be, and more the people who think the way we do, and the whole thing's spinning faster and faster. And I think so many people, so many entrepreneurs and business owners, as we said earlier, come from a place of scarcity and worry about that. They don't allow themselves to focus on it, which doesn't allow the flywheel to spin. And then they just always wonder why they didn't get there. They see all these other people doing it, and they're like, oh, why wasn't I there? And it's, you got to take that jump of faith and invest in yourself and the people around you.
It's certainly a belief system, right? To also want to, I don't know. I really enjoy working with people, Mark, you said it, that just are looking to grow, have aspirations to grow in some capacity, right? And not necessarily, I want to grow my bank account. That's great. But typically, I think we would all say that the bank account grows as a consequence of doing a lot of these things, providing value significantly for other people. And if we do that right, and we find the efficiencies, the bank account will grow. But just growth in their life, in their business, right? And what they're trying to do is what I'm really attracted to. And that's where I think there is some, there's motivation, as Adam mentioned. I think the motivation is making a difference in other people's lives. And then there's some discipline to our job too, because, sometimes not everybody's going to show up to that same level. Sometimes it's, you're tired, I'm tired. We gotta get up and make it work. And so the discipline around it is making sure that we show up the same every single day, regardless of what's going on in our life, because our clients deserve that. And then when I get into the meeting with them, It's like I find the energy, right? It all comes back to me. I could be dead tired all day, get in a great meeting with a client we're talking about building businesses and what's going on in their life. And all of a sudden I've got all of the energy in the world because that's what fuels me. And I don't think that'll ever go away, right? That's not a work to 65 and lose it.
I think, Adam, you said it again, maybe 20 minutes ago. I think it's like you got to trust the process. Like part of it is you've got to have some faith the process works. And I think a couple of other things that I would also I think that I think have been core values for us. One is you want to hire the very best people and then get out of their way. I think that part of it is that I realized early on that I was a terrible manager. And so what I focused my energy on was trying to become a great leader. That was I'm not saying I'm a great leader. That's my aspiration to be a great leader because good leaders create followers and great leaders create other great leaders. So my aspiration is to be a great leader. And you start to think and you go, hey, you manage tasks, you lead people. You notice we get together with our leadership team every Tuesday morning. We don't get together with our management team. We
Right.
get together with our leadership team because we're leading people. And I think when you hire the best people and you get out of the way and you give them the resources for them to be successful, and you're not micromanaging them or second guessing them and giving them your confidence and their trust to succeed, it becomes a great place to work. I think people want to work here. Do I think people make a lot of money here? And do I think they make more than they could make virtually anywhere else? I'd like to think they do. I think they do. But if people will come for money, they will leave for money. So you've got to give them a purpose. And I think that's one of the things that I think we've done pretty well. When you hear these things, I hear us talk. One of the things you also want to be is one of our core values is you want to be confident, humble but confident. And part of it is like you're like you don't want people to be thinking, oh yeah, we've got it all figured out. We're geniuses. It's like, no, this is just a journey and a process, and we're just sharing our what we've discovered in our journey. But it's like you never arrive, and you never like one of the things my mother always taught me is like when you think you're all that, the world has a way of telling you you're not that, and they cut your legs out from under you. And that's why I think we try as an organization and as people to be both humble and confident at the same time. Confident that we can do the job and we can make people's lives better, but humble in the fact that I think when you start believing your own bullshit, that's when you get in trouble. What's the best advice you think you give clients, or what do you think the question you get asked, or what's something that people would is like that you want to share?
We deal in so much of our clients' lives, right? And I know that this question could go to the best advice is, we told them to put their money in this place a couple of years ago, but it's not that. I think one of the biggest things that I think turns around is, Mark, you've already alluded to it, is helping our clients understand the ascension from do-it-yourself business owner to CEO to entrepreneur, right? And those three different designations, right? And that's something that I think we've been talking about recently is like entrepreneurs hire CEOs. But first, you sort of have to, it's hard to go from here to here because you gotta detach yourself from the doing in the business, right? So when you talk about a mature business, I classify a mature business as a business that runs with multiple operators, meaning if the person that started the business is not there on a day-to-day basis, the business is still running, right? Mark Murphy went to Europe for a month. We've got people here. The doors are open, the lights are on, and we're serving clients, right? We're going to be there, and so that becomes a mature business. And then it's that elevation to the next step, which is being that visionary, being that entrepreneur, and trusting that you have a team of amazing doers that the world is not on your shoulders, right? And I think in our world, conveying that to clients and helping them see that, and then how to execute to go do that, has been a great game changer for a lot of our smaller, closely held business owners, right? Who have a really hard time figuring out how they're going to untether themselves to the business, how they can get that time back in their lives while still having a very successful business. That's for recently at least been where I think has been the most impactful.
Some of our clients are afraid to take a chance. I think the most successful ones are the ones that allow things to play out, right? The ones that understand that this is a long time journey, and the things that happen in the short run have little effect in the long run. And as long as you can make those effects smaller and smaller over time, the easier it is to grow a business, step out of, being part of that business and continuing to grow, as a person and as a investor over time. And I don't think it matters if it's a business that they're running, their first business or 10th business, their investment accounts. I think those who are most successful see the long game and understand that this doesn't just happen tomorrow, and put the pieces in place and are willing to take the advice from those who understand and been around those who've been successful over time, and take that advice and understand that this is going to take a while.
Well, I got to tell you, I am proud to call you my partners. I'm excited to see what we're going to do over the next 5 to 10 years together, because I'm hoping it's going to be epic, and I expect it to be epic. And I just want to thank both of you for everything you do every day for me and for our business. And thanks for coming.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks,
We
Mark.
appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Talk to you.